It's official. We're rolling.
It's official.
Okay,
Let's do this.
Let my brain adjust a little bit so to a different language. Pedro, I added to the agenda. Not sure if you saw. I see you here. Some of the topics that I've been talking to that I've been using to talk to the designers. But yeah, just feel free to go and share your thoughts on settings and what you wanted to share on this topic.
I didn't add anything to the agenda, but I think the two. So there's the detailed design work, which I think you're already aware of most of the problems, like expanded sections, not as expandable sections, checkboxes, toggles, autosave, save on submit, where do we put this in? So all of those are small things, and they're very good, but I'm not that concerned. I'm very comfortable knowing that you are leading this, so I'm aware that you're probably going to fix all of those things, or at least put them in the right place. What I'm more concerned about, that maybe I can talk more about, is the architecture of the settings. I think that's might be the biggest problem, which can impact the success of using a pattern like the expandable sections. Like if people can't navigate well and find their way around, having expandable sections or not doesn't make any difference, because people are still lost. People still need to read all of the labels. So in that regard, although it's something that I've known for some time, also as a user of GitLab, in the recent category image scorecard research, two big themes related to settings and the navigation. And I think you might be aware of them. One of them is, I think, global, and it affects all settings, is configuring settings in the features themselves versus at the project level in a more outside of the features. And we can talk more about that in a minute. And the other thing, which is specifically related to source code, I mean, I'm being unfair because it's not that specific, because everyone touches the source code experience, but it's how do we organize the settings that are related to merge requests and setting policies. And the reason why I was saying that maybe this is not just about source code is because I know for a fact that the compliance stage group is heavily interested in and just approvals in general, and gates that you put in place in checks and balances to make sure that things are reviewed, audited, approved, and so on. And all of these things come back to merge requests, because merge requests are the door through where all of the changes happen, right? If you want to make a change to something, it goes through merge requests. Yeah. From there, all of these different settings about approvals, about pipelines, and all that flow through there. So there are a lot of related settings, and it's difficult to find your way around them. But to me, the most difficult ones is definitely to find just the merge request settings. Like, where can I find, I mean, you go and you see repository settings. So is it in repository? Because that's where I store my code. But no, it's in general. And merge requests have nothing general about them. Merge requests are one of the most important features of GitLab, right after repository, of course, and maybe in parallel with pipelines, right? And we don't have a heading for it, so it's very difficult to find it. Once you do, you already know it's there, of course. But then when you want to set things related to the merge request, but also related to the repository, that's when things start getting a little murkier. So that's what I would say, like the two themes settings in the features themselves, not the features in the project settings as we have today, or in both places. And then the second one is like merge requests having their own section, and also how can we architect this in a way that makes sense for people that are looking for other things and just policies in general and compliance.
Okay. Yeah, I think you touched base on a couple of topics that I discussed quite often with the designers. So the mix of feature settings, and then, you know, global settings, global as in they are in the navigation. And I have some people saying that it would be nice to have more entry points on the feature itself for settings, other than, you know, the whole information architecture and restructuring how you either navigate to settings, but also how things are displayed on the page. And I just wanted to give you an update that your team, actually, your stage create is taking over settings, and Michael Lee, he's invited to this call. Okay, so he declined. Yeah, I think he's a different time zone. So he's gonna be the DRI for that. And one of the ideas, or the initial intention of my effort, was to really have this conversation with the designers and try to figure out where is your pain point in your specific stage group, but what are the research insights and what are the findings that, you know, can back up the design changes that we want to do. So there's two things there: navigation, or the information architecture of how to get to settings, and the settings page itself. And when the issues that you've been linking me in the past week or so, are they things that your team is already working on?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
We have so much work. We probably won't get that. Although it's something a lot, but in the user's journey, settings, it's one of those things that you set once and forget, or you don't go there that often. And for us, we're much more concerned and occupied with improvements to the user experience of people that spend a lot of time, like their whole day, in merge requests or the repository. So for us right now, fortunately / unfortunately, it's not a priority for source code specifically. And I hope that someone can help us, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure specifically. I'm not sure if you saw, I'm gonna link you to this one. Actually, add here to the agenda, these two items.
Yeah.
Settings UX, learning and recommendations. So this is a huge summary of all my my findings and the conversations I had with the designers. So lack of standardized UI, elements and patterns. And the first step here is and exactly what you mentioned: mix of radio buttons and toggles, autosave and a save button at on the same page. And I think one of the first steps is try to define this in pajamas. What is settings at GitLab, right? How does it behave? What is the page layout, etc., so that we can help the teams implement. Now, let me see if I have Michael. Michael, what's his team? It's a create?
Static site editor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he's a. Let me see. I don't have him pinned here. Okay, but it's create as well, right?
Yes. Yes, it's inside of it.
Yeah. So they're going to be, I think, taking 3 or 6 months to invest in both settings and navigations. I think this was decided while you were out of office.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there is actually a new direction page for navigation. Let me find that for you, so you can get here category direction.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to share with you regarding the setting things in the feature themselves or not is I added an example. I will highlight it so it's easier for you to find the cursor. And it's called link code owners file and affected files to code owner settings. And this is basically came out of the research because we noticed that well, there's a lot of problems with terminology itself, but that's another thing. But what happened was that if people, I can show you this in live. So if, let's imagine I want to go here to the code owners file of the GitLab project. Right, I'm here. And the most important feature related to code owners is enforcing all of these people that are described here to approve a merge request if something changes in one of these paths, right? So if something changes in the document, yeah, or Mike Yang, we need them to approve. We want to require their approval. We don't have any way of you to navigate there. So one of the recommendations that I drafted was, what if we linked the code owners file and maybe even the affected files, like when you go into, for example, this file in the repository, we have a button somewhere that says like navigate to the settings to enforce, you know, the approvals or something like that. Right? So this is an example I want to show you. It doesn't have any designs. It's just an idea, and maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense, or maybe it does. Yeah.
Yeah, to me that makes total sense. And also in line with I heard from Secure, I learned from Growth, where they have this in context settings options that they just want to have you know, the ability to take users to tackle a specific setting task on that page, right? So a lot of, especially when you work with personas, they are not so technical. In release management, we have that a lot. We have the release managers that are just, you know, dealing with the UI every day. And then you have DevOps engineers that are actually doing release management. So they do everything on the API. They don't go to the UI. They don't care about settings. But then you have to cater for this range of people that they just want to find a button on the page where they are right now without having to jump to documentation, because the docs also, they don't really highlight settings, right?
Yeah, what I'm describing was actual user behavior. So people, and it was just not one person. We tested with 6 people, and I know that's not a lot, but from those 6 people, I think I don't have the right numbers, but 4 or 5 people went directly into the file and tried to find their way around that, right? So this is, I mean, for this feature, it could work. Maybe for other features, it doesn't make sense, but this is what we observed. And I think we should follow the intuitiveness, right? If someone's first reaction is to try this and there's nothing there, I think that's an opportunity. Yeah, this is just a small example. I don't know when we will act on it or not. One other thing that I don't know if someone brought this up and how it's related to settings, but I think it is in a way, is for example, the user preferences. And again, this is an example that I think could be also applied to the project settings, admin settings, and so on. Is, for example, we have this setting here that says show white space changes in divs. And we also have that in the merge requests inside this cog dropdown, where you can basically what's in here and what you change here only affects you. So these are the user preferences inside merge requests, but we're kind of unsure where we should place these. So this show changes is applicated. Actually, it's broken because there's a bug between us synchronizing this checkbox and the checkbox here. So that's also another problem. So should we duplicate this or not? And I think what I'm saying here could also be, this thought process could also be applied to settings in general. And one other thing, just to give you a clear example of what we're doing now in this milestone, we have this setting and this user preference that I don't know if you've ever used it, but it allows you to just see one file at a time when you're reviewing changes in a merge request. So instead of seeing all the changes stacked and the files, you only see one file at a time. And this is really good for large merge requests. But right now this is buried here and people have to know it exists. They have to come into preferences. They have to find this and click it. So we're going to display it here, right? So this is why the issue is scheduled for this milestone. And we have the idea to just add this checkbox that does this here. But because of the complexity, the technical complexity, we're actually thinking about removing what we have here and just having the preference here, because we already have a lot of other things here. And as I said, technically, this could be easier. But with all of this, and as you can see, there are a lot of inconsistencies, and there are no clear guidelines and about what we should do about these preferences. And I think a lot of this also applies to settings.
Yeah, totally. So I think that brings me to my next topic, that I opened this merge request last week to add a new region on Pajamas for settings. And then here it's like, I don't know, there's 30 lines. There's almost nothing there. But here I say that we have at least 4 types of settings: admin settings, user settings, project and group, and feature settings. And I think that's what you're talking about, the feature settings there. And I see that's a great opportunity for us to start feeding this page with some of the behaviors that we want to replicate, because what you're showing me right now, it's pretty much the same thing I've seen from Secure. It's moving things from a Secure, from Runner. They want to move things, move their features to become a first-class citizen. And that means that the settings need to move out from, that one hidden checkbox option in a random settings page to become closer to the feature, or more highlighted in the settings page, in the navigation, etc. And on that note, Valerie put together a, where is it? Here, prioritization and scope for settings. It's here in the agenda. And in this issue, it's an epic. She organized it in, I think, in 4 or 5 priorities. So the first one being information architecture, second, search, the third is contextual access. I think that's what you're talking about, and general UI cleanup. These all will involve, of course, and this is going to require engineering. But I think one of the first things that we can just tackle is defining how do we want these to work from a user point of view. Doing exactly what you just say, bringing the insights, the findings, the research to back up these decisions. So I welcome you to either expand this merge request or to just leave your comments there. Michael should be taking the lead on this specific epic, but we need to feed the sub epics and the issues with issues like the ones you showed me on create, to kind of help shape the direction there.
Yeah, I think in terms of the contextual, I think as a whole, you can have a lot of guidelines and they will apply very well to most cases. But for example, to this side, information architecture and the contextual access, just showing you with the drop down for the merge request user preferences, we're doing that because people change those preferences often, right? It depends, and people don't want to leave their flow to say, hey, I want to see these merge requests side by side or in line. I don't know if you also do this often, like sometimes change the view type, but a lot of people do this. So we've recognized, although we don't have proper research on it, and knowing from others' usage, we know that they change those preferences while they're working, right? And that's different from the setting and forgetting about the setting. So, and another thing that I don't know if someone has mentioned already is this other layer about who is affected by the settings. So I think probably someone has already mentioned the cascading effect of the settings, like instant and then writing project. So there's also that complexity that we're adding right now to the product. But what am I changing? Am I changing this just for me? Is it a user setting and user preference? Or will this also change for others, right? It's tricky. I don't think there's a one like silver bullet question answer to this, but it's food for thought, basically.
I would suggest, Pedro, because I think a lot of your comments or questions that might be answered in this epic that I linked here. It's already in the docs, but I sent you here in the chat. It's with my learnings and recommendations. So yes, we do have 150 issues related to settings in GitLab, and we have these big epics that say information architecture on settings, and then it's a very specific request or suggestion or enhancement by a specific designer that will fit a specific stage group. That's what we have right now. And I think when you look at the prioritization scope for settings in general, that Valerie put together, it's really on conducting research to finding, you know, the usability insights that we want to apply to settings as a whole. Make organizational and change in the category about settings that relates to navigation. So I would say have a look at these issues because they have a lot of answers and like permissions, for example, the personas, everyone that has permission to either change something in the group or project, but their own settings. And having I have that problem in release management right now, is to giving users contextualization on why things work in a certain way, even though they cannot edit that specific settings. It's something that we can get better, you know, in many different areas. Right now, for example, you do set up a deploy freeze and then your application doesn't deploy on weekends. Why? There's nothing that tells you, you know, that this is happening. So it might not be something specific to, letting people do a setting task, but giving them the context of why things work the way they do with GitLab is definitely necessary. And I started this with some low-hanging fruits. So there's like 50, 40 something bugs, issues, UX debt, UI polish, settings related issues that anyone can pretty much just pick up and start working on them.
But those are the bugs. But the bugs.
Yeah, that was in this epic here. Let me find a link for you.
Is it this one?
Yeah, this one.
Okay. Yeah.
So these are the ones that, you know, they should work. It's either a message that is missing on setting, a button that is misaligned, etc. But if you look at the things that are added to this epic, they are pretty much UX polish, from what I could see. So one of the things that I tried to do in the beginning was try to make this, you know, ready for PMs or anyone to just pick up. But now that we're going to have part of the create group,
that's going to be great.
Yeah, we're gonna have more conversations. Yeah,
and I'll probably help Michael as well, because since he's in create and we're very close, and he's also been working with some things related to merge requests, I'll probably help him with this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what has been the tone that you had with other folks before, but of course we're going far and wide here. We're talking about a lot of things, and not everything is actionable. But looking at the epic that you linked me to, that Valerie created, I think we're aligned in terms of what I assume would be the priorities. And so I think we won't be able to do all of this in. I don't think even in 6 months, but it will be very good that we're going to do.
No, that's why I suggested before that we look at what we can do right now as designers. Can we come up with pajamas guidelines that will support engineers to do a UI cleanup? You know, can we define, for example, how the autosave should work? Can we come up with an agreement on, do we want toggles, yes or no? Things like that, that, you know, even if they don't get to this this part of the efforts at some point, or at least in this next 6 months, but that my team can start implementing, and then they build it, the component in Vue, and then your team can just integrate, you know, with you. So I think that's the type of collaboration that I'm looking for at this point, because it's a big effort. And if we look at information architecture only, I don't think, you know, we're going to solve these problems that you just mentioned about the contextual access. And these are the decisions that I feel that, yes, we need research. Yes, we need the broader, you know, a DRI maybe helping make some of these decisions. But the way I see is that the stage groups and the designers should also feel empowered to come up with this solutions based on the insights that they have from their stage group. So by all means, start contributing. And yeah, I'm super excited that you want to collaborate in this, and I'll try to touch base with Michael this week, and to maybe align a little bit on next steps, and yeah, we continue there.
This was great, and thank you so much for all the work here. And I also appreciate a lot, I don't know if anyone has mentioned already, but I appreciate a lot the fact that you created a video, like an in-depth version of the learnings and recommendations. I think that's a really good way of communicating these things. It's another way of communicating, and it's very helpful. So thank you for that.
I'm glad to hear that it was helpful.
Yeah.
Awesome, Pedro. Thank you, Pedro. See you later.
Yeah, see you later, Hannah. Bye-bye. Thanks.